Hi, Robin. Hi, Rhiannon. Rabanin. Riabin. I'm gonna think on that and get back to you next month. Anyway, happy February. Happy almost Valentine's Day. So for my third video, I am in a third brand new setting, and this time I also have games behind me. Just moving stuff around for preparing for the baby and all that. So yet another new setting. Hooray. So real quick, I just wanted to get something neat out of the way before I get into putting a bling on it. The 6th of February came and went, and I selected a winner for the Ninja Legend of the Scorpion Clan giveaway, which is down there, and you probably can't see what I'm pointing at. And so what I did was I took a random number generator, clicked the button for the number of comments, and whatever number popped out, I went and found the associated comment just going top down. And the first result was actually somebody who very explicitly in their comment disqualified themselves. So I had to click it again, and who came up was Christopher Shock, which is really cool because I got to meet Christopher at BGGCon. And that was when I thought his last name was Sleazag very briefly because I was very, very tired. So, Chris, get in touch with me. Shoot me a DM on Twitter. I'm pretty sure you also have my email. And we will work out getting you your copy of Ninja Legend of the Scorpion Clan. And, yeah, the name he decided on was Arthur, which is funny because that's actually one that I've been, like, all about lately. So anyway, blinging it up. Putting a bling on it and totally rocking out a game is something that's been very important to me. Really, since I started playing games. First game I really ever played seriously was Magic the Gathering, which is certainly not an uncommon board game origin story. But one of the very first things I remember requiring outside of getting new cards was I really desperately needed the little glass droplet beads to keep track of my life. I didn't want dye. I didn't want to write things down or to have to remember it. I absolutely wanted those little glass beads. And then I needed card protectors. And then I needed a deck box. And then I needed all this other stuff. And it became super important to me to have this kind of experience. And then we started decking out Dungeons and Dragons that when we were playing that, we really wanted to make the experience good. So we'd have beautiful character sheets and lots of things like that. So that's really stuck with me. That's something that has stayed super important to me. And has really evolved into something else. While I think it's really amazing the things that we can do with blinging out a copy of a game or all the components in something or the storage of something, I have been really passionate lately about blinging out an experience and making that experience something unique. And there's a few ways that I like to do that, and I'd like to talk about those. The first thing that I really like to do is music or a soundscape, and that's obviously been very pivotal for a lot of people. I know that's one of the more common things that people do. For instance, if you look at the Flying Frog games suite, every one of their major releases comes with a soundtrack composed by Mary Beth Magdalenis, and they're all really awesome. I think it's very clear that, you know, music and creating that correct environment was very important to that entire company, and all of those people felt the same way. And I think that's really cool that all of these people came together with a very similar vision for a gaming experience. And that has really played into anytime I've played a Flying Frog game, you know, whether it's Fortune and Glory or Touch of Evil, or I think I've probably played the most Last Night on Earth. And some of those songs on the Last Night on Earth soundtrack, like Faith or Heroes Resolve, are these really great, like, tense, momentous songs that, you know, that time where you draw the card, like right as the music crescendos, is totally worth it, and it's really, really fun. And that can branch out less of, you know, directly composed stuff to, you know, playlist creation is really neat. For instance, I think the last time I played the Manhattan Project, we listened to a bunch of big band music to kind of really kick off that vibe and that atmosphere. You know, and you can do stuff like, if you're playing Firefly, you can listen to the Firefly soundtrack, or you can listen to really cool Western music, or, you know, something that we also did for our Western game Bounty Town is, you know, Ennio Morricone stuff. Take stuff from spaghetti westerns that became iconic and really evokes a lot of those feelings. I think that that's really cool to create that atmosphere that everyone can connect with, where with certain game experiences, you know, a lot of people will only connect to this element of a mechanic or this element of, you know, a win condition, things like that. Whereas if you can pick iconic music, it really puts everybody on the same page, generally speaking. And that's not true of everyone. Kind of everything I'm saying here is certainly with caveats and addendums about your own personal experience. For instance, I absolutely love music when I am playing games, but I'm mostly deaf in my right ear, so sometimes already I can have trouble communicating at a gaming table. If the music is too high volume, I'm going to have an even harder time. So I really want that atmosphere and that music there, but it can't be too loud. The other thing is sometimes you're not necessarily in control of your music. What if you're playing games at a friendly local game store? You can't exactly ask them to, you know, go throw on the Firefly soundtrack because your group wants to play Firefly. That might be a bad example, because depending on your game store, they might throw on the Firefly soundtrack. But who knows? Point being, sometimes you're not in control of that. Just, you know, keep an open mind. One of the other things that is the most intriguing to me, that I've really liked doing but have done less of, is blinging out your experience with food. The idea of, you know, board game cafes, or people doing board game potlucks, or somebody makes a dish for game day and brings it, that's obviously really popular, and that's really cool. But generally speaking, that seems utilitarian. It's serving a purpose where that purpose is sustenance or just delicious food. Certainly those are wonderful purposes, but you can also thematicize that. You can make thematic meals that you're going to have. You know, if you're going to play Firefly, you can make dumplings and whiskey. If you are, you know, if you're playing, you know, Morels, you can have like a delicious, you know, wild rice and mushrooms dish. Stuff like that. I mean, really anything to help people connect more directly with it is, I think, a lot of fun. Now, the most obvious thing to do with food-based thematic elements is drinks. I think a lot of that works really well. You know, you've got cool websites online that'll help you make fantasy-based drinks, or, you know, drinks based on the Final Fantasy series of video games. But that's really easy to do in the board game world. If you're playing, you know, some fantasy game, if you're playing Lagoon, you know, get absinthe, then, you know, call it moon juice or druid juice. If you're playing a gothic horror game, you can get absinthe and call it absinthe, and that would be great. If you're playing Game of Thrones, get honeyed wine and then stab each other and light somebody on fire. That sounds like something that happens in those books. That's canon. I'm going to go ahead and say that that is an occurrence in those books. But the point is that you can take this thing that you're already doing, eating and drinking, and, you know, with a little tweak, you can give somebody a laugh that may help them connect more. And that's really the central element to all of this, that through these very minor adjustments that really don't require much effort at all, in addition to what you're normally doing, you can potentially help somebody get more into it. I've got a friend who would be way more inclined, say if we were going to play Betrayal at House on the Hill, if we just dimmed the lights a little bit and put on a Halloween music soundtrack. You know, that would help them connect to a hobby that they've always been intrigued about, but maybe weren't comfortable with how approachable it was. Me taking these very minor steps to make them more comfortable, they can connect with it. In the same way that knowing what an end game condition is, or knowing what the lore is, helps people learn rules, that can be true of feeling a big part of that experience. If somebody is already feeling engaged by the atmosphere you're presenting, they're likely going to pay more attention when you are reading rules at them or explaining the way the game works. And I think that's just a really cool, I don't know if you want to call it like trick of the human consciousness, but I mean, it definitely works. I think that's really exciting. So that's how I go about like blinging out my experience. I really like music. I really like food. I really like, you know, like I said, throwing in some nice drinks. And what I mentioned was alcoholic. It doesn't have to be that way. You can get, you know, those little like glowy ice cubes and throw them in some Sprite or a punch bowl. Things like that. You know, it's a lot of the spectacle that people bring to certain holidays, I think you can take to a board game night. On that note, bling out your invitations. You know, maybe don't just send a big old group text that says, hey, everybody, let's play games on President's Day. Maybe I send a group text to you, Robin, and I say, hey, I'm thinking about setting up a game day with you and Rhiannon. Want to come? And then I send you a text, Rhiannon, that says, hey, I'm thinking about doing a game day with you and Robin. You want to come? That way it helps people connect on an individual level. You know, it makes them say, oh, okay, Kyle was thinking of me, not just I'm on the group invite. The other thing that does is it lets somebody decline in an appropriate manner. Sometimes they may have to decline for a personal reason, or they may just not want to go. They may have plans. Letting them do that person to person is a lot easier than feeling the group pressure of saying, oh no, I can't go, and then, you know, maybe somebody makes a snide comment, something like that. You know, that can be kind of uncomfortable. So I think that's a little bling that you can throw on your experience that really helps. So what do you guys do to bling out an experience? Do you have playlists for specific games? Do you just have playlists for game night in general? Things that set an overarching tone? Have you tried fun food and drink? Are you just kind of going off of a recipe book? Can you take that same recipe book and turn it into the, you know, Agricola board game cookbook? You know, what can you do?